2nd, 2025. Hi, I'm Michelle. In case you don't know, you're just coming across this video. I am the quantum teacher on TikTok. I also am known for Nana the Witch on various other platforms. I've been called today to disclose something very profound that happened to me last week. Now, I'm not asking you to believe anything I say, not one thing. I don't need you to. I don't need anybody to believe me. But usually when I'm called to record an event like this, it's because I'm not the only one. Someone else needs to hear it. Someone else needs to know that they're not the only one. That just maybe they're not crazy. So, I'm going to discuss what happened. I just wanted to get a few things clear first before I started this. If you're watching this on YouTube, you get the whole full-length feature. If you're watching this on TikTok, you're going to get this in part. We're going to discuss the mundane things because this happened a week ago tomorrow, I think it was. Tuesday or Wednesday of last week is when this happened, and I have spent this whole time evaluating the incident, researching the incident. I've had some spiritual counseling over the incident because you never want to discount the possibility of spiritual, being crazy. Always should be considered. So know that I've done all the things that any practical, science-minded person would do. So, there's my spiel. Keep watching if you want to hear the story. Maybe this will speak to you. Here's the story. So last Tuesday, we had a G4 solar storm hit the earth. It happened, it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I believe. Something like that. G4. So, and some of you may have seen some Easter eggs here and there. I mentioned it in the intro on my podcast trailer for Peaceful Shifts. I did a video just yesterday, I think it was, kind of hinting that maybe some of you out there had some things happen to you too, okay? And really, solar storms like this affect every living thing on the planet. Plants, any living thing gets affected. Plant or animal. Okay? So it was coming night, and I was getting ready to put my husband to bed. Help him get to bed. He still requires a little bit of assistance. And, I was going around the house, turning the lights off and things, as one does. Closing up shop, as one does. And I felt like I had a suit of armor on my shoulders. It was an unbelievable, and it was all across. It was an unbelievable heaviness. Nothing I have ever felt before. And it caught my attention because it was like, what the heck? I kind of brushed it off, though. I was getting ready to go to bed. I had things to do. I go into the bedroom, and it wasn't long after that I melted. And I'm using that word specifically, melted. Now, I don't know if you have ever fainted. I have fainted 5 or 6 times in my life. I know what it is to faint. I've never once melted. I always faint. So there was red flag number one. Everything was black. I couldn't see anything. But I could hear everything, and I could even talk. I was completely conscious. Completely conscious. Red flag number two. Anytime I have ever fainted, I go to sleep. I'm out. I pass out. Okay? I did not pass out. I was completely cognizant the whole time. In fact, my husband, of course, was freaking out at this point because, he can't move very well. His right side's numb. And I remember saying, it's okay. Everything's okay. I've got to find out what's happening. And I recall searching. It's all just black. But I recall thinking, what's happening? Why am I here? Show me something. I was completely alert and aware. That was red flag number two. It was very strange. Then the room slowly, very slowly, just came into view, which was also very strange. The slowness, it was so slow. That was new. So that was red flag number three. Then I felt so good. I had no pain. I had no weight. I remember I laid down and I even wanted to start giggling because I felt so good. It was a bizarre, it was bizarre. It was nothing I've ever even felt before. Ever that I recall. But I didn't want to start laughing and then he's going to be like, what is going on? So I just said to him, I'm just going to lay here for a while because I didn't want it to go away. It felt so good. Finally, of course, I had to get off the floor, which with my knees was a whole trip on its own. But I did. I got off the floor. And we decided to take my blood pressure because we're very stroke aware in this house, even though I knew that's not what happened. I knew that's not what happened. But, again, you must take all things into consideration. My blood pressure, and this would have been 10 to 15 minutes after the initial melting, the initial incident. So this would have been maybe 10 or 15 minutes later. My blood pressure came in at 64 over 46 with a 44 BPM. So I was relatively sure that the stroke was not the issue. And I just went to bed, and I remember still just feeling so euphoric and so good. The bed was so comfortable. My body felt good, and I remember laying a hand on Steve because I could tell he was still so worried. I said, it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be fine. It's just fine. I don't know what happened, but everything's fine. And we went to sleep. The next day, my pain levels were half of what they usually are. If half. It was really amazing. I was really intrigued by that, and I noticed that because I was paying attention. I knew something occurred. I just didn't know what it was at that point. My pain levels were great the next day. They did slowly, though, return to normal, and they are normal now. But that is indicative, as I have learned, and we'll get to that, okay? At that point as well, we were in the thick of the G4 storm. And everybody around me was, having problems. So I was still a bit caught up with having to handle everyone's energy around me. And I look back on that now, and I do notice a difference in the ease of which I did that, which is significant, and we'll also get to. As the days passed within the last week or so, I researched and spoke to people about medical issues. The only things that even applied to me was stress levels, which we all know I do have high stress levels, and drop in blood sugar, which, I mean, I imagine that can happen to anyone. Very unlikely that that's going to happen to me. Okay. I mean, I ate that day. There was nothing significant about that day that would cause me to think that I had a blood sugar drop. Everything else is fine. I mean, you know, I've seen the doctor. My labs are fine. Okay. So after that, I started looking spiritually at what happened. And it's hard for me to even put into words, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. I have a couple of mentors that I use to explore my spirituality. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't having any spiritual psychosis. This is not the first profound spiritual event that's ever happened to me. And every time, being the science-minded person that I am, I always take spiritual psychosis into consideration. It has to be ruled out. I was assured that, firstly, the fact that I'm even considering it pretty much denies psychosis. I was reminded of what spiritual psychosis is. And I didn't fit any of those things. So we ruled that out and set it aside. It was explained to me, and it has been confirmed, it was explained to me that there is a void, there is a space between. And I have been initiated into seeing that. I have been shown the first step, the waiting room. I don't know how to explain it, but it's the void. It's the space between. I couldn't go any further. I was out of my body, but still attached. Again, reminding you, completely cognizant. I even talked to my husband. I knew everything that was going on. Okay. So, the other thing that was brought to my attention was my calmness. I wasn't scared. I was completely calm. I remember looking in the darkness for something, someone, in anticipation, not in fear. We discussed the fact, okay, my blood pressure and my pulse. That I should have been sick to my stomach. I should have had confusion. I was clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. And these are medical symptoms, I guess. I'm not a medical person. Of that type of incident, medical incident. None of that applied to me. I would have never even known. Had I not took my blood pressure, I would have never even known it was that low and my pulse was that slow. I felt good. I felt flushed. I felt energized. I told my friend Shelley about it the next day, and I said, I'll do that anytime. It was that good. I explained to her that it was literally orgasmic, but without, take sex out of it. That euphoric feeling that you get, that's what it was. I was so happy. Felt so good. I should have been sick to my stomach, puke if not puking. I should have been confused about not understanding what's going on. None of that. I was completely clear the whole time. Now, I've had two things presented to me. One is this was some form of initiation. Now, having studied shamanic theology, and that's shamanism in all practices, one thing is across the board, and that is death of self, an initiation of which part of you dies to make room for the realignment. Different cultures perform rituals in many different ways, but all to the same end. So it was presented to me that this was some part or the first part of an initiation. And I don't know what to what. I do feel subtle differences. I don't understand some of the things. So I can't even put them into words for you now. But maybe later I'll make update videos. The other thing that was suggested to me is that I had a timeline shift, a paradigm shift, a shift into a new reality. One where my task changes. My task changes. I'm prepared for that as well, if that is the case. I will do what I need to do, what I'm called to do. Some residual feelings now that we're a good week out. I've had a few lessons stand before me in actually the past few weeks, but now all of a sudden I feel the urgency to learn them and get them out of the way, and I don't know why. So I'm going to be contemplating that and doing my part to learn the lesson. I also am feeling differently about things. Food, for instance. Animals, for instance. Which I find interesting. I just, even the peacocks, all the animals. My feelings are changing about how I feel about animals, about the world, about people. It's almost like I'm more connected in some way. More things for me to contemplate. So it has been explained to me that, and really confirmed by both parties, that what I experienced was probably what a lot of people in the same place I am at, they call somatic exit and return. It's a temporary disconnection from density of the body. Mediums experience this. You experience this in deep meditation as well, which I found interesting once I started researching that. It was suggested to me that the metal, that's that heavy suit of armor, because how I see, you have to understand, and this is what I didn't realize, it was explained to me this way. You have to understand how I perceived. How you perceive things matters. I perceived it as a metal coat of armor on my shoulders. And in perceiving that, it was very indicative and clearly representative of the burdens I face right now, and the stress and the energetic weight, having all of it. Having all of it. And the fact that the incident removed that from me represents a cleansing, for lack of a better way of putting it. I was assisted in letting that go. It was also suggested to me that I was experiencing an altered state transition. So, of course, I had to research that. Altered state transitions, they're not the same as being unconscious. They're closer to what some might call a miniature near-death experience, but without the disconnection to death. I was clearly maintained connection to my body. I knew what was happening. I could even speak, which is apparently really, really strange, because I didn't realize how strange it was until I spoke to people about it. But that is where they come up with this void state. It's this primordial field. And I even seen in some of my readings that it's almost, some people describe it as being in the womb. In that place where you're safe and frightened and have no weight and feel wonderful, which was exactly what I was feeling. Which circles us back to the initiation and being born again. What I also learned is that my blood pressure and my BPM was more relevant than I thought. It wasn't just a physical symptom of this event. I'll remind you, 64/46 with 44 BPM. This happens to be in the Tibetan and yogic systems. They call it being death adjacent. You know what? You know, if you hear me talk, I always talk about the guy on the side of the mountain, right? That's what he's doing. If you were to take his blood pressure and his BPM, that's what you would get. They call it a high state of, and I'm gonna mispronounce this, so I apologize. Samadhi, samadhi. But what that means is altered consciousness. It's when your consciousness shifts to a higher frequency and your body slows down. You leave the 3D awareness. And all of this circles back to the G-force storm, because the G-force storm absolutely, in every way, check all the boxes. The G-force storm would absolutely you can say facilitate this, cause this, be conducive to this. I don't know. That all goes back to that video I made the other day about people who believe that the planets, the stars, the moon, the sun are all living entities. And the sun is capable of sending solar codes. That's what its job is. Solar codes that activate upgrades, that activate downloads, that activate all kinds of different things. It was suggested to me by one of my spiritual mentors that that was on purpose, that my team purposely waited for this to happen because it was so conducive, which I found interesting. I mean, as you can see, I'm still contemplating so much of this. Still contemplating so much of this. And I have more to contemplate. Things have settled down. But here is what I've learned. I've learned that spiritual awakenings are slow. Very slow process. They don't happen overnight. They come out of nowhere. Usually when you least expect it. There was not a day that I spent meditating. It was not a day that I spent doing spiritual things all day. It was a normal day. I took care of Paul. We ran the errands. I did all the things. There was nothing. And a clear message that I got from it, that I do know, is that quit looking for them. Quit running for the awakening. Quit striving to be awakened. Just do the simple things. Pay attention to the lessons. Do the things you're called upon. Things that make you happy. Things that make you healed. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask them or to answer them. If you went through something too, share it with me. I want to know. If I can help you in any way, get on my websites and make an appointment. Let's talk about it. Let me coach you through some things. I think the main thing that I would want everyone to know that's gone through anything like this, there's no way I'm the only one. No way. You should be calm. If this is a real spiritual event, it is going to make your life better. It's not going to make your life worse. It's not going to disrupt your life. If it is making you have anxiety, making you have fear, if it is disrupting your life, then you need to look at the other things. A true spiritual experience It's indescribable. Indescribable. Thank you for listening to my experience. I appreciate you. Again, I don't ask you to believe me. But if you're out there wondering if you've lost your ever loving mind, I'm here to tell you just maybe not. There are things to consider. Know that I love you. Thank you for watching.